Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Built Like This podcast. I'm your host Maxine on episode 307. Hello. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I appreciate your subscription to this channel. Shout out to y'all and the recent subscribers, the OG subscribers, and the engagement that I've been receiving. I really appreciate it. So this is just a call to action for anyone listening to this right now. Go ahead and click that subscribe button on both YouTube, Spotify, as well as Apple Podcasts. Click that follow button if it's follow on those platforms, and leave a positive review. I really greatly appreciate that. This is an independent broadcast, and it is my baby. So shout out to you all for your ways of supporting me. Thank you so much. Let's get into these topics. Let's start off with Lizzo. Let's start off with Lizzo and why she needs to get away from everything TV, from everything social media, why I should no longer see her on my algorithm. I am sick of Lizzo. I'm sick of her. I'm sick of her complaining. I'm sick of her calling victim and calling out the establishment just to play along with the establishment. I'm sick of it. So recently she came forward like what? Like she was accused of something. No, recently she came out and said, I am quitting. And she gave basically a some type of like misleading message that would make anyone naturally believe she's quitting music, because we know her as a musical artist. She leaves a message on Instagram to be so dramatic and says, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to be ridiculed and talked about and made to feel like crap and yada, 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 yada. And come to find out, that was a lie. Come to find out, she's not truly quitting music. She's just trying to be, again, the one getting attention. So she says here, quote, I'm getting tired of putting up with being dragged by everyone in my life and on the internet. All I want is to make music and make people happy, help the world be a little better than how I found it. But I'm starting to feel like the world doesn't want me in it. I'm constantly up against lies being told about me for clout and views, being the butt of the joke every single time because of how I look. My character being picked apart by people who don't know me and disrespecting my name. I didn't sign up for this. I quit. Boom. This was an explosive message she decides to leave on her Instagram. And 782,000 people liked this message. Now, did they like it because they agree with her taking a stand against trolls online and saying, I'm done with y'all, you're no longer getting my energy? Or do they agree with the fact that, okay, good girl, you should quit. I'm tired of you on my screen. I'm tired of hearing about you. Just get the hell on and get a regular 9-to-5 job. Who knows? Nonetheless, she said this message, and I was thrilled. I was happy about it. I was ecstatic. I was enthused because finally, no more Lizzo talk. Now, I think throughout her career, though, it has not been shorted of the talented just contribution that she has put forth in this world, in our society. And the fact that she plays the clarinet, and I think she does write her songs, and her songs seem to be much of a hit. You can't take that away from her. But what's annoying about her is the fact that she constantly cries out about being a victim of fat phobic remarks and how we should love the body that we're in, and yada, yada, yada. She has championed herself as this fat-bodied advocate, an advocate for fat bodies. And I'm using that term very specifically here, very purposefully here, because she's said it herself. She is a fat woman and she's proud of it, and there's no changing that. She's going to embrace that and be loud and just in your face about it. And a lot of people have issue with that. A lot of people have issue with that because it sends a poor message. It sends a negative message. It sends a message about poor health. And then people will say, oh, well, there are people who are bigger size and are healthier than those who are smaller size. Okay, look, we're not going to be dense here. We're not going to be dense here. Obviously, yes, there are cases in which just because you are of a smaller frame does not mean you are of a healthier frame or a healthier body, right? That doesn't equate to health necessarily. But let's not act like having excessive weight, and that's the key word here. It's good to have weight on your body. I'm not advocating for being frail and thin and withering away, but let's not act like having excessive amount of weight on your body is the route to go or is something that you should be aspiring to accomplish. Like, that's not a good message. So a lot of people who have, the same sentiments with what I just said are having issue with the message that she gives. There are instances in which she would just violently show her derriere in a public space, showing it out like it's something that we all want to see or hear or feel or all the senses. She was at a basketball game and she was wearing a buttless dress, meaning the outprint of the dress from behind was purposely cut off. And she was just walking around in public wearing this attire. And I wonder, what's going on with her team? Does she not have friends? But being that she's a star, it's probably just whatever she says goes. No one wants to lose their job, so it just is what it is. And then we've heard recent reports of her being a horrible boss. She has coerced her employees to engage in sexual acts, allegedly. So there are so many things that have been said about her and so much that has been reported and stuff that we've seen with our own eyes that have been just simply inappropriate, to say the least. So her saying she quits really was a sigh of relief for me and many others. But she decided to come forward and actually clarify what she meant. She says, she said, I just need to clarify. When I say I quit, I mean I quit giving any negative energy attention, she said. Quote, what I'm not going to quit is the joy of my life, which is making music, which is connecting with people. I know I'm not alone. In no way, shape, or form am I the only person who is experiencing that negative voice that seems to be louder than the positive. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep being me. So that's what she meant. Girl, you knew what you was doing. You knew you was being misleading. You knew you was trying to garner attention, and that is what she did successfully. And I'm just disappointed that she's actually not quitting music. So there we have it. She is back in our faces with her dairy air. Okay, let's talk about DEI. DEI, yes, DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it has been a hot topic for several years now, I would say. It's been quite a controversial point when it comes to who is quote unquote qualified for a job and who is not. And there's an idea that is had that those with DEI focused positions are only with those positions because of the fact that they have the box checked of being a colored person or being a person of color. So the person may be Asian, Black, whatever the case is, or even also of a specific sexual identity. Now, the issue is people believe that those who have those positions are not qualified to do the job and do it effectively, right? So, for example, Kamala Harris, she seems like a great candidate of this conversation point because many people have said, okay, where is Kamala Harris? What is she doing? And even when she does speak and go on these speeches and these tours and has her spiels about her, she says idiotic things. She sounds totally silly. There was a saying of her saying, I'm gonna see if I can find it. The burden goes. Hold on, it's so funny, y'all. Nonsense. Yeah, it's literally on to YouTube. Kamala Harris nonsense compilation. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, she says a lot of like word salads, just things that just don't make any sense. Hold on. Let's see if I could.
Let's talk about Kamala.
Hold on. This is too funny. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it right here. All right, this right here. Let's start right here.
Check this out.
I'm going to share with you a very simple story, which is that I went home one day and I said, well, why are conservatives bad, Mommy? Because I thought we were supposed to conserve things. I couldn't reconcile it. Now I can.
What? And that's just one of many. I was hoping to find a whole compilation actually, but there are so many things that you could just pull up of her saying ridiculous word salads and just sounded like a damn fool. Yet she would laugh while doing so, or, cackle, as people may say. And it just continues to reinforces this idea or this notion of those who are of that quote unquote diversity, equity, inclusion population are not as qualified as they should be to obtain a role in this institution. The University of Texas at Austin recently fired 60 staff members who once worked in DEI roles. And this was done in compliance with a recently passed bill that bans colleges and universities from maintaining DEI offices. This is a bill called SB 17. Some people may just call it directly, has an anti-DEI law. So the staffing cuts is focused on that. It's banning anyone in colleges and universities from maintaining any roles within a DEI office. So any roles that is specific to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let's see. Holding mandatory DEI training and having department focus on promoting differential treatment based on race, sex, or ethnicity. So any roles like that, if you are a DEI trainer, you got fired. If you are DEI vice president or vice president of DEI, you got fired, according to this new law and those who were working at University of Texas, Austin. Now, let's see here. In a statement released Wednesday, the Texas NAACP and AAUP said this impacted staff members, and they were given a 90-day layoff notice. 40 of those employees were from the Division of Campus and Community Engagement, which will be closing down. So all of the departments that is focused on DEI have now been discontinued. And this is just a part of this sweep to get rid of any roles that is maybe not as respected as others. You know, there's a conversation around affirmative action along with this topic here, DEI, feeling like, well, did you just get the job because you were Black? Did you get the job because you are, transgender? You are all of these like boxes that show diversity. You're not a typical white person. So, or are you getting the job because you are qualified? You're simply qualified. You're not only getting the job because you are. Sorry, I'm getting this like cold. I don't know what's going on. I think there's some, I don't know. When I think about this though, I do feel sorry. I do feel sorry for those who lost their positions. And I do think that in general, there is a goodness about DEI, about these types of roles and departments that are focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I do want to see more faces that look like me in different positions. I think too often those positions have been given historically to only white people, when there are obviously qualified, well-to-do, and capable people who come in different shades and colors and backgrounds. So I should see more Black administrators or principals. I should see that more often rather than only seeing one demographic. So on one hand, I do agree with wanting to see more diversity. I think though, when the line becomes tricky is when it's only about that and less about the qualifications of said person and the fruit of their work. If I'm only seeing Black and brown people in positions of power, but those people are not qualified and have not shown themselves as qualified or as hard workers or fair in their work environment. Like sometimes I've had these like bosses who happen to be Black. I'm sorry. And yes, I'm talking about white people too, but I'll talk about white people too, but let's just focus on Black people. I've had a lot of Black bosses and Hispanic bosses who just like either one, weren't as qualified or were on this like power trip. Like, what is that about? And I think it just comes from the fact that there hasn't been enough opportunity had or given to people of color, and I hate using that damn phrase, but to people of color to have certain positions. So when one finally gets that position, it's exciting and I feel on top of the world. So it's just unfortunate because I have seen too many examples of Black and Hispanic people in those positions and they don't treat that position with the respect and care that it should have. So anyway, DEI, I think it could be a slippery slope. I think it could be a place where some people who have those positions are just there just to say, hey, look at me. I'm the face of diversity and I'm at this company. You should come here and look at us. Like, I'm virtuous. It's a virtue signal. And that's what I don't like. So I'm sorry for those who lost their jobs. You know, it's not great to lose your job. But I think we do have to reshape what we mean by DEI, because it's definitely being tainted lately, and people have a negative impression when it comes to that. So that's unfortunate. Okay, let's get into Tyrese more with some political talk. Tyrese had a comment to say about what Joe Biden may have done in replacement of Easter. Okay, I'm going to read what Tyrese believed and what was said initially about this. So we all know Easter, the story of Easter, or Resurrection Sunday for those who celebrate. And I have to add that part in because not everyone celebrates, and I understand that. So, but there's an understanding that Easter, Resurrection Sunday is about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, how he fasted, and he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. Good Friday, he was persecuted 3 days, and then he was persecuted on Good Friday, and then the third day he rose. You know the story. He rose, and now we have a living God, a living Savior who died for our sins, but resurrected and he's a living God. Okay, so there's that story. You know, I'm not saying it in a way to like be offensive. I'm just saying this is just, everyone knows this story. Tyrese has called for President Joe Biden to apologize for declaring March 31st, which was, because March 31st passed, but which was Easter. But apparently Joe Biden declared March 31st as Transgender Day of Visibility. Tyrese and several others believe that Biden declared the Easter holiday as Transgender Day of Visibility. However, that is not true. But let's get into why Tyrese felt this way and the message that he sent. Tyrese says in his caption, "President Joe, I really, really hate to put up this post, sir. This is a reach. I swear, man, y'all are just really, really, really taking things too far. Whoever met with you in your boardroom and signed off on this failed political chess move, really, really, okay, the two reallys in a row? Enough. Chess move really, really need to be fired. I am always uber sensitive about people walking and living in their truth." But he put third instead of their. So clearly he was hot. So there's no problem here. If you are happy with your gender and want to switch it up, not want to switch it up, based on who you identify with, that's your life. Do what makes you happy. I say this and speak for every Christian and believer around the world. The Lord Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. He's writing this in all caps. And he is the reigning Alpha and the Omega, Jesus Christ. Pick up your Bible, Mr. President. Jesus don't do politics. Jesus is not a Democrat or Republican. Well, I'm kidding. We're really going to talk about it. It's like, no, he's right, though. Jesus was not necessarily, Democratic Party and Republican Party wasn't in existence then anyway. Jesus is not used to be for political agendas or gains. And if you haven't noticed, there's actually aren't enough transgenders on this earth right now that could get you reelected. Ooh, Lord. This is a reach. I never, ever judge any man or woman. Do what you want with your life and your lifestyle. Okay, this is long, but basically he's obviously in disagreement. He is in disarray. He is just in disorder. From this news that he received regarding Joe Biden declaring March 31st as Transgender Day of Visibility. Now, I want to read the message that Joe Biden declared for this day. He says here, today, we send a message to all transgender Americans. You are loved, you are heard, you are understood, you belong, you are America, and my entire administration and I have your back. Now, therefore, I, President of the United States, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim March 31st, 2024 as Transgender Day of Visibility. I call upon all Americans to join us in lifting up the lives and voices of transgender people throughout our nation and to work toward eliminating violence and discrimination based on gender identity. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand this. Okay, he's just like declaring it some more on the last paragraph. Now, here's the fact check about it. According to leadstories.com fact check, Biden did not declare Easter Sunday Transgender Day of Visibility. Transgender Day of Visibility is always March 31st, but Easter varies yearly. So I guess that's the fact check here. Apparently, every year, Transgender Visibility has always been March 31st. Maybe I'm not understanding that, because if that's the case, why would Joe Biden come forward and say he proclaims March 31st, 2024 as Transgender Day of Visibility? As if he just instated that as of this year, just a few days ago. Or, yeah, so that's interesting. So according to this article here, did President Joe Biden declare Easter Sunday to be Transgender Day of Visibility? No, that's not true. The Biden White House did issue a proclamation celebrating the extraordinary courage and contributions of transgender Americans on March 31st, as it had in each of the 3 years prior. Gotcha. Okay, so apparently he has been doing this in recent years, and it has always remained the same date of March 31st. And for Easter Sunday is not always the same date as March 31st, which is actually true. So I guess in this year, it obviously coincided, and that's just what happens. I just find it interesting how it happened to why did March 31st, why did any day next to Easter, whether it's the day of Easter or the day before, the day after, why did any day around this time period has to be associated with Transgender Visibility Day? You know what I mean? So even so, this was a fact check. Why is this even anywhere around this holy holiday and just this holy time? And I know some people don't feel like it's holy, and that's totally fine. I get that, the paganistic. I'm interested in learning more about that too. I've learned more about that, and I have definitely received a lot of evidence supporting the paganistic rituals regarding quote unquote Easter. So totally understand. But what my point is, the presentation that we receive about Easter is supposed to be this holy holiday, and the days prior leading up to Easter is definitely regarded as such as well. The fasting, the Good Friday element, all of that. So just the whole month of March should not even be at all in alignment with transgender visibility. And you may say, okay, but why? Why? Because it shouldn't. No, but it's just because it's just not in alignment with what is supported in the Bible. I mean, that's a straight point blank period, and that's just what it is. So for it to be some type of like distraction, I do find that to be agenda driven. I do find that to be very purposeful, and I don't like it. I don't like it. So I support Tyrese, even though he needs help as well. I think he's a little cuckoo. Something about him is a little off. But nonetheless, that was a fact check. Okay, let's talk about Chance the Rapper. Chance the Rapper and his wife are going through a divorce. Yes, they are going through a divorce. And I know I sound like I'm smiling. That's because I am smiling. But I'm smiling because I'm watching a video of Chance the Rapper grinding and smacking the ass of a carnival dancer who is barely dressed out in the streets. And at this time, he was obviously a married man. So, of course, he's getting a divorce. Of course. Like, what are we talking about? Of course he's going through a divorce. What's so funny about this video is you see she's barely dressed, right? She's dancing on him because that is the culture of carnival. That is the culture of being out in these streets for these types of, I don't know, I can't think of the actual name for it, but I just say carnival. And representing your culture, whether you're Trinidadian, Jamaican, Bajan, from Barbados, like, Bajan is Barbados, right? But, you know, any of them, or Rihanna, all of that, they follow this type of aesthetic and dance moves and just overall appearance when it comes to carnival and being on the streets, dancing, wearing barely nothing. But what was interesting is because he smacked her ass, I would say that probably was a little bit too much for her because because he actually he smacks her ass, and as they're done, she looks up and she kind of rolls her eyes like, okay, like, man, this man is a little much. Like, you could definitely see that in her face. And he's just out of control. He's losing it. So there's that. There was also some reports of him liking pictures of transsexuals on Instagram or wherever, and just like going at it, liking those pictures. Now, I don't know if those likes were verified, but nonetheless, there's a little bit of a history of him doing a little much that may make his wife look a little embarrassed. So she came forward finally and was like, you know what? After a period of separation, the two of us have arrived at the decision to part ways. We came to this decision amicably and with gratitude for the time we spent together. God has blessed us with 2 beautiful daughters who we will still continue to raise. I just totally paraphrased that last part, but you know what I mean. We kindly ask for your privacy. Yeah, you know how they do. But we're not giving you no privacy. What? You're a public figure. Of course we're going to talk about you. So, the idea of giving y'all privacy is just so laughable to me. Like, can y'all relax? I know it's like the common way to end the little statement or declaration, but of course not. Of course we're not going to give you privacy. Anyway, so yeah, so he is he's a little weird. I remember liking his music years ago. Like, I think it was his first album. I don't know if it was even considered an album. It was a mixtape. And I think he's actually from Chicago. There's a lot of talented people. Lots of talent from Chicago. Lots of talent from Chicago. Shout out to Freckles Bay. But lots of talent. So Chance the Rapper, he may have a good album coming out then. If this is the case. If this is the case, I am looking forward to his new music. Music always sounds better when these sorts of things happen. That's what we say about Mary J. Blige, right? When she was happy with Kendu, or seemingly happy until they got a divorce, her music wasn't as hitting as they once were, as they were for real love. I'm searching for real love. It's not the same. So anyway, he's going through a divorce. It is what it is. It probably was to his own foolish endeavors, smacking the ass in public of this carnival dancer. But hey, God bless. Okay, Amanda Seales is back at it again. Girl. You know what's so funny though? There was a video I saw of her that she released after talking about the whole not being invited to NAACP and not getting that support and recognition from Black spaces. There was a video that she posted after. It was the second video that she posted. In that second video, she talked about how she sometimes doesn't recognize how she comes off. She says it in a way, she's a lot of words. She likes to show that she knows a lot of words, and that's great. She's very intelligent. She's very book smart. I'm not taking that away from her. But all in all, to paraphrase, she was trying to say she is a work in progress, and she is continuously aware of that, something like that. And I took that as a moment of relief. Wow, is she really going to recognize that she is someone who needs help or someone who just could do better, and she's not perfect and she's not always right? I really took that as this is a good sign moving forward. Child, I spoke too soon. A woman named Monique Judge wrote an article, and she works for the Griot. This article is titled, "Amanda Seales is not a victim of anything but her own hubris." This is a good word, hubris. Let's look that up, because I was like, woo, that really set her off, because Amanda Seales definitely sent or created a video in response to this, basically crying in the video, yelling in the video, saying, "I do so much for the Black community." It's girl, relax. Girl, relax. Hubris means excessive pride or self-confidence. And this is absolutely true. She claims she doesn't have hubris. She claims she is totally without this trait. And okay. But in all actuality, she doesn't come off that way. And I think there's a lack of humility that she possesses, and a lack of self-reflection, for sure. She has just been so insufferable in recent years, in many years actually. But it has just been one after the other, okay? In this article, she points out the many instances in which Amanda Seales rubbed people the wrong way. And people are trying to come to her defense, saying, "Oh, you don't like that she tells the truth." And it's no, that's not it. We could appreciate the fact that she does call out white supremacy and racism, and all of that is good work and dandy. That's cool and all. But there's a pompous nature that she carries in a way that's condescending and just downright rude to other people and particularly other Black people. There's a condescension that she carries in her tone, as if she's better or as if she is just always right. So there's so many examples, and I talked about it in a recent episode, so you can refer to that episode. And there's been other episodes I've talked about her on, so you can refer to that. But in this article here, she points out a few examples that shows how Amanda Seales have been problematic, to say the least, and that she should really just be reflective of that. Like, there's not, like, let's just be honest here. Like, just because you have a big mouth doesn't mean that everything that you say is right, or everything that you say should be respected or received well. There's an understanding that should be aligned with that, and it should be, well, you know, some people just don't rock with me because of how I come off, and maybe I could do some reflection. I remember when I used to follow Amanda Seales on Instagram, she would say on her biography, on her little bio, she'll say, I'm not for everyone. I'm not for everyone. And that right there was already a turnoff. And you may think, well, why? Isn't that fine to say? No. The reason why it's not fine to say is there's no opportunity to grow. There's no opportunity to say, hey, you know what? If I offended you, if I probably delivered this message, or just my mannerisms were off-putting, I'll do some self-reflection and I'll adjust accordingly. As for her, it's just, no, everything that I'm doing is right. You will listen. You're wrong. You're a loser. And there's other ways to go about it. So there were instances in which she would tweet these controversial takes. And in her mind, she thinks she's doing service to the Black community. So she says here in 2017, quote, if you're buying Jordans and Nike suits, but you don't have a passport, you're losing. And she says this in caps, and she gets a lot of backlash for it. People are saying, oh, well, you know, not everyone may have the desire to travel to a foreign country, and obtaining Jordans and Nike suits seem to be more attractive and more attainable because it's tangible, it's right then and there type of thing. Now, here's what she's saying. I don't necessarily disagree with what she's saying. It's, again, in how you deliver your message. I feel like just in it of itself, the essence of what she's saying is not wrong. I think everyone should have a passport. I think everyone should have the opportunity to travel. And if you can't obviously travel in foreign areas without a passport. So that should be a priority. But what is a priority for you may not be something that's a priority for someone else. And that's okay. So you now calling that other person a loser and just talking downright trash to that person is what is the issue here. Like, you don't have to do all of that. It's not that deep. So she says here, I made a comment that I still stand behind, which was that if you can't afford multiple Jordans, yada, yada, yada. And she's just saying that she still stands behind it and you're losing. She says that people have called her a classist, petty bourgeois who is passport shaming the impoverished Black community. She then continues to press on by saying, if you're buying Jordans and Nike suits, but you don't have a credit card, you're losing. If you're buying Jordans and Nike suits, but you don't know your credit score, you're losing. Again, what she's saying is not necessarily wrong. You should know your credit score. You should have a credit card to help build your credit, right? All of this is true. It's just the way that she goes about it. It's always about the delivery. I had to learn this at a young age, and I finally accepted this in recent years, because I would say a lot of off-putting things that maybe not everyone's ready to hear, because not everyone comes from that same upbringing or education or experience. So what is common knowledge for me, it may not be one to someone else. How about you explain why you think and why it is technically, because I do agree with what she's saying. How about you go on and explain why that is a losing way to be? Instead of just saying, you're a loser. Yep, loser. Tell me why. Tell me the opportunities that I can experience and have, and the perks in life that I can have access to now that I have a high credit score and a credit line and a passport. Like, a lot of people are not as educated about that. I'm sorry. And that does not mean to, it's this whole shaming thing. Make me feel bad for being poor. Make me feel bad for buying food off my credit card and not being able to pay it off. Make me feel, I'm naming all these instances that a lot of Americans deal with. So instead of shaming that person, educate that person by showing them why it's more beneficial to have a credit card and use it wisely. Educate that person and tell them why it's more beneficial to know your credit score and keep it at this number, this score, before shaming. I just feel like it's just so silly to me. So yeah, there's just so many things that she said and done. Myron Rose, how she falsely accused him of sexual, coercion, harassment, speaking for the other women who randomly called her, telling her their story, when come to find out that was a lie. Her getting kicked out of that Essence party while her Insecure cast was there and didn't give up. I just feel like if a lot of people are not rocking with you, maybe it's you. Maybe you are the problem. And this is an opportunity to grow. Just look at it as an opportunity to grow. Have that growth mindset and shift your mindset about it and simply do better. That's all you could do. You can't change the past. You can't apologize. You could absolutely apologize and recognize how you have been off-putting and yada, yada, yada. But you can't change the past. You can only do better in the future. So I am just hoping that eventually she'll get it together. But I feel like something's off with her. I think she's just, her being an only child, her constantly talking trash about her father, who apparently wasn't in her life. So there's a lot of trauma there, seemingly. Her just always being angry. Like, there's something there. And I'm obviously not a doctor, a medical doctor, psychology, a doctor of psychology. I'm not any of those to properly, diagnose her. But even I could see something's off with her. And I'm sure many of y'all can as well. I wish her well. I know it probably doesn't feel great to be pounded on, but she needs help. She needs help. Child, she needs help. All right, you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. Thank you so much for listening, and I will check in with y'all next time. Peace.